Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Gatewood, and I am the Communications and Marketing Director at CFRE International. And I am so glad that you are with us today for our How to Become a CFRE webinar presentation. So we are going to spend the next hour today looking at everything you need to know to become a CFRE. We have a couple of wonderful panelists with us that we are going to hear from in a little bit. They're going to be sharing all their good insights, tips, and tricks with you, and all that stuff that you can't find anywhere else. To begin with a little bit of housekeeping, we do have a question pane today. Two of my wonderful colleagues, Christine Johnson and Jeff Stanger, are on the back end. They will be answering your questions. So keep those questions coming through the question pane. We are also going to stop periodically and look at a couple as a group together. If you have any questions for our panelists, you can also ask those through the question pane. And when we do our stopping, we will make sure that you get their good information there. If you haven't yet started your application, you can do so over at mycfre.cfre.org. You can start filling it out while you listen along to us today. You might want to bookmark it and begin it later, but beginning your application, which is free to start, is the first step towards becoming a CFRE. We are recording today's webinar. You will receive an email in about 24 hours with a link to the broadcast. So know that that is headed your way. We're going to start, I'll begin a little bit about what the CFRE credential is. The biggest point of difference with us is that we are the only globally recognized accredited certification for fundraising professionals. That's why we are head and shoulders above the others. No matter which country you work in, no matter which country your donors or funders are in, the CFRE carries the same weight. It shows that you have met a set of requirements that are recognized around the world, right? Who doesn't want that? We've been around for over 40 years. So we've got great longevity in the space. We have a good track record. We know what it takes for CFREs to earn and maintain this credential. We have a great body of knowledge behind us. Everything we do is grounded in ethical best practice fundraising. This is super important because you always want to be sure that you are fundraising to ethical best practices. But if you have never measured your knowledge against globally accepted ethical best practices, you don't necessarily have a way to know if you're doing it correctly or not. You owe it to your organization, yourself, and your team that you always want to be sure that you are doing everything by the book as you should be doing it. That's what the CFRE process is designed to help you do, so that you'll have that confidence and assurance that you are not leaving dollars on the table, that you are fundraising to current guidelines. We have over 7,700 CFREs in more than 25 countries. When you become a CFRE, you will become part of this global network. So that's great for you. It's a great way to expand your network. Certain conferences will have CFRE only events. So becoming a CFRE can get you access to things that you might not be able to otherwise. As a broad overview about what a certification is, oops, I think we lost this slide here. The people love certifications, right? Employers, donors, because it assures the public that you have knowledge at a specific level. You've demonstrated that knowledge. You're not just saying, hey, I'm an amazing fundraising professional. I know all this stuff. I've raised these funds. Our certification shows that you have had a third party validate that. We are accredited by the ANSI National Accreditation Board, which has looked at our program and found it to be rigorous and meeting the needs of the profession. So you can have full assurance in that. A certification has standards that are set through a defensible industry-wide process, and that creates the outline of requirements, okay? So I'll talk a little bit more about this later in the hour, but the CFRE process is not something that we just picked out of the air and said, these are things we think you need to know to do your job effectively and efficiently. There is a whole process behind it, so it's designed that when you have the certification, you know this means something. A certification results in a designation that you can put after your name. those 4 letters, CFRE, they signal to everybody who sees them in the profession about the requirements you've met, that you take this seriously as a profession, that you're committed. With all certifications, just like your dentist has a certification, your CPA, your accountant has a certification, you don't just earn it and then you ride off into the sunset and say that was fun. You have to continue to meet requirements. That is what keeps you on the leading edge and in demand, right? So a degree you complete once, a credential or certification is evergreen because you have to re-up it. We have 2 people who earned their CFRE in 1981, the first year we existed. If those people never recertified, if they never did another moment of professional education, we would all be terrified, right? So as a CFRE, we know that they have continued to recertify every 3 years, so their body of knowledge is current. Plus, as a CFRE, you agree in your application before you submit it to abide by the International Statement of Ethical Principles in Fundraising, the Donor Bill of Rights, our accountability standards, and your local laws. We do have a grievance process. So if there's a CFRE that you think has done something that is outside of what they should have done, you can always report that. So we do take this very seriously. This is how we have this ethical assurance that people are abiding by what they commit to abide by, right? All right, so with that, we've kind of looked at the background of what a certification is in the CFRE, but now we're going to talk about the benefits, right? It takes time, it takes effort to earn your CFRE. We want to make sure that this program continues to deliver for you, right? That you're going to get great benefits from doing this that you're not going to be able to get without becoming a CFRE. So to that end, I am very pleased to introduce our first guest speaker today, Andrew Poulter. He is a CFRE ambassador who is coming to us from Michigan. He earned his CFRE in 2019, so he's had 4+ years to be able to see what the benefits are for himself, how it's affected his fundraising. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Andrew.
Okay, thank you so much, Ashley, and good afternoon, everyone. As she shared, my name is Andrew Poulter, and I am one of the CFRE ambassadors. So a few things I want to talk today about are the commitment to the industry by receiving the CFRE. First, I want to say thank you for investing in yourself, investing in the time to attend today's session. This is part of the CFRE journey, is committing to yourself, committing to the industry, and committing to this wonderful profession. As a recipient of the CFRE, as someone who earns this credential, this is going to be a significant part of your personal and professional journey of achievements. This is, as Ashley said, the only globally accredited certificate in our profession. And so this is going to separate you from good and great professionals. This is going to put you in that latter category. In terms of accountability, taking the CFRE is going to show that you are not just a major gift fundraiser, or you don't just work with volunteers. You know your stuff and you know it all. This is really a best practice exam. This shows that you are a best practice fundraiser across the board. You're not just an expert in one field anymore. Taking and passing the CFRE is also going to increase your recognition within the industry. As Ashley said, there's about 7,700 in the world. You are going to join that elite group of fundraisers and philanthropic professionals. And this is going to separate you and show that you know your stuff. As I said, amongst other fundraisers, it's going to show that you know your stuff in your organization, with your donors, and so on. Next, we're going to talk about a few other benefits. And then, Ashley, I don't know if we can advance the slide. Perfect. So this is going to show that you are competent in 6 domain areas. The exam is going to push you. It's going to stretch you. It is going to get you outside of your comfort zone and make sure that you are learning continuously. It's also going to show an increased credibility. So as Ashley mentioned, there are CPAs, there are JDs out there are MAs, there's PhDs, MDs. This is our opportunity as philanthropic professionals, as philanthropic advisors. This is our opportunity to receive that credential. To have those 4 letters behind your name means you know your stuff. Lastly, in terms of career advancement, this is something that CFREs notice. Once you have those 4 letters behind your name, people will come out of the woodwork. They want you as part of their organization. They want you to be their mentor. This is going to take your professional trajectory and turn it at a 45-degree angle, skyrocketing. This is going to remove any barriers for you and propel you forth in your career. Back to you, Ashley.
Thank you, Andrew, so much for that. I appreciate it greatly. We are now going to hear from Soulafa Abbasi. She is a CFRE coming to us from Alberta in Canada. She earned the designation in 2022, so she is perfectly poised to give you some insight into the career benefits of someone who's had their certification for about 2 years, so you can kind of better understand what are those sort of short-term wins and experiences of a newish CFRE. So Soulafa, I will turn it over to you. Thank you for being with us.
My pleasure, Ashley, and thanks for reminding me on the dates. I was like, when was my year? So thanks for the reminder. Hi everyone. Yeah, so I've been as Ashley said, I've earned my certification 2 years ago, and I've been in the nonprofit sector for 16 years, and having a CFRE designation has certainly increased my credibility as a nonprofit leader and fundraiser with stakeholders. So, for example, it positioned me as a subject matter expert in conversations with staff, board members, donors, volunteers, partners, and especially in fundraising roles that needed vision casting and capacity building through the creation of fund development strategies that are built on ethics and best practices. Another area my CFRE has had a positive impact on was my career advancement. Recruiters approached me for more specialized fundraising roles that required a CFRE designation. And in my most recent workplace, some staff replaced my S in my name to a $sign, while others referred to me as the money girl, welcoming me as their chief development officer. You can't get more specialized than this, I'd say. Bottom line, I love fundraising, and getting my CFRE designation was one way of furthering my commitment to inspiring philanthropic giving to causes I care about and believe in. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Soulafa. And now it is my pleasure to bring Dan Blakemore onto the webinar. Dan is coming to us from Ohio. He has been a CFRE from 2013. So as somebody with the viewpoint of holding this certification for over a decade, Dan is going to talk to you about the career benefits. Take it away, Dan.
Thank you, Ashley. So it's good to be with you all this afternoon. But for me, I really think the CFRE has helped kind of elevate me, at least as an expert in our field, whether it's other organizations looking for expertise as they're trying to do hiring of their own. I think even whether within my organization and even kind of in the broader community, it has been a benefit to really be able to provide insight kind of really from that best practice mindset, to let people have that perspective and kind of bring it, not necessarily how can they apply it more to their own organizations, whether it's the board of trustees that I've been able to work with in my current work, and even in past roles. It really has been, and it kind of helped elevate me, both where I am, but also in the community I've been working in. I also think it does make you an asset to your local AFP chapter. I think when I've been active in multiple chapters and now globally, it has been helpful, and you're seen as kind of someone to come to when they're helping plan programs, when they're looking at how can we specifically market the chapter, try to grow the number of CFREs in the chapter, but also support those in the chapter who want to pursue the credential. And I think recertification, as I think Andrew particularly was getting to, it really does keep you learning. For me, I knew I wanted to be a lifelong learner in this field and in this work. So the CFRE was particularly appealing because it was, well, if I'm already going to all that professional development, why not keep up this credential, but stay fresh really in the knowledge base to do the best possible work for each organization I'm working with. I will turn it back to you, Ashley.
All right. Thank you, Dan, so much. We're going to bring Andrew back to talk to one slide about speaking with your employer, and then I will take it away. But then I also want to remind people, if you do have questions for Dan, Andrew, or Soulafa from the perspective of a CFRE, to put those through the question pane. We have over 50% of CFREs tell us that their employer contributed to part or all of their initial certification fee. So Andrew's going to talk to you a little bit about getting that employer support.
Okay, thank you again, Ashley, and thank you to Soulafa and to Dan as well for speaking today. Something I want to talk about is speaking with your employer about the CFRE, about your journey towards receiving this credential. So right now I'm in Q3, I'm wrapping up Q3 of my fiscal year. I'm starting to plan ahead for budget for next year. And what I would say at this time is start having those conversations with your manager, your VP, whoever is responsible for your budget. See if they can allocate your professional development budget towards the CFRE. So perhaps instead of going to an AFP conference for 1 year, you take those dollars and you apply it towards the CFRE. In my personal experience, what I created, and actually Ashley and I have developed a letter that you can share with your boss. But what I utilized was, why don't I take this exam? If I pass, you pay for it. If I fail, I will pay for it and I will reimburse you. Fortunately, I didn't have to reimburse. I passed the first time, but that's one way to show you've got skin in the game. Maybe you go 50-50. Think through the options. And again, Ashley and I have developed this letter. We're happy to share that as a follow-up. So why should we even pursue the CFRE? Well, I have an undergraduate degree in music performance. That didn't necessarily directly set me up to be a professional fundraiser, although there are a lot of soft skills and other skills that did. So most of us don't have an undergraduate degree in fundraising or philanthropic advising, what have you. There's only a few degrees in the country, and at the master's level, there's only a few as well. So this is your opportunity to become recognized on paper as that professional expert. Again, as Ashley shared before, this is a third-party validation. This is objectively, not subjectively, this is objectively saying that you have your stuff down, okay? You've got 6 areas, 6 domains for the exam, and you know them all. It's also great to show internally as well as externally that you and your team are recognized experts within the field. So when you see those 4 letters after your name, you know that they have achieved a certain level of accomplishment. So when I talk to Dan or Soulafa, I know that we have the same background, regardless of our professional experience. I know that we've gone through the process of sitting for the exam, of qualifying and passing. Also, our donors know that we have done that. We are committed to this field. We are not just experts winging it. Last, it shows this commitment to ethics and accountability within the profession. We have to be ethical fundraisers, and we are accountable to this set of standards. If I do something out of line, well, we have that grievance process. I hope to never, ever, ever have to go through that for anyone. But I know that as they become a CFRE, they have agreed to, and they are abiding by this highest level of set of standards. Okay, Ashley, back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Andrew. I appreciate it. Now I'm going to just do one kind of last plug here for the benefits of the CFRE, and then we're going to start with the certification. So everybody wants to lift their salary, right? all of your negotiating power when you want to raise your salary is usually when you go to a new job, right? Sometimes our current employers want to jump our salaries up, and that's great, and we can work towards a promotion, but a lot of our power is when we move to a new job. Now, all of the power that we have to negotiate is before we sign the employment contract. We want to think, okay, maybe I'll accept this salary. It's not quite what I want, but when I have my 90-day review, my annual review, my first one, right, they're going to see how much of a rock star I am, and then I'm going to get that salary that I kind of had in the back of my mind. And it never works that way, right? It's always what you can get at the negotiating table the first time. If you intend to look for a new job in the next year or two, consider getting your CFRE before if you want to have as much leverage as possible. The reason for that is CFREs in the US who are mid-career earn on average 14% more than CFREs earn 14% more than fundraising professionals without the CFRE who have comparable experience. And in Canada, wait, I said that wrong. Okay, let me start over. CFREs in the US earn 5 to 16% more on average at a mid-level, mid-career level, versus non-certified colleagues with comparable experience. And in Canada, that's 14%. And in Canada, that's across the board. This isn't our data. This is AFP's compensation and benefits report from last year. So this is third-party data that they collected that found that CFREs have this edge in earning potential. So if you want to get this for yourself, be sure you earn your certification before you start applying for jobs. So what is the timeline? Well, the first step is to complete and submit your application. Go to mycfre.cfre.org. That's where you can begin it. Start putting your information in. Then once it's complete, you'll submit it. Our staff will review your application, and for approved applications, you will then get an email from us on how to schedule to take the CFRE exam. Then you're going to make your testing appointment, and once you pass the exam, you're a CFRE. So that's all there is to it. To start your application, like I said, you can go to mycfre.cfre.org, or we have two places on the homepage here, the login and that little My CFRE account icon. Go ahead, start it. You have nothing to lose. The application is looking at what you've done over the last 5 years, okay? It is 2024. That means our application is looking at what you've done from January 1st, 2019 forward, all right? So the application itself will not expire. If you started an application with us 3 years ago, you don't have to create a new one from scratch. We still have it. You don't have to complete the application in one sitting. In fact, we recommend that you work on it bit by bit. That will make it a lot easier for you. But you can log in and out as much as you need to keep that moving forward. Okay, so we have 3 main application sections. I'm going to break these down for you one by one here. So the first one is education. This is education that you have attended or presented that's fundraising related. If you say, Ashley, I would rather die than present, I don't want to get in front of people and talk, that is totally fine. You don't have to present at all. That's not a requirement, but if you do, just know that you will be able to reach this requirement a little more easily. So attending fundraising education is all kinds of things. It can be virtual, it can be in person, workshops, master classes, conferences, webinars, all of that good stuff is going to bring you up into meeting the education requirement. We also can take up to 10 points of non-fundraising education, but this must be related to your job. We have people that love to submit crazy things like yoga for fundraisers or swimming classes. What we're looking for in your non-fundraising education here is something that we can look at and say, okay, that is going to ladder up to this person being more successful in fundraising, right? So public speaking, could be leadership, financial, understanding classes, all of those things. So next, if you have an academic degree, great. If you don't have an academic degree, that's totally fine. You do not have to have an academic degree. If you do have an academic degree, I just want you to know that you can put this towards the education requirement. I told you everything that we're looking at on this application is from January 1, 2019 forward. There is one exception, and that is your academic degrees. They can be from any year in any major. So if you're like me and you have a bachelor's of English from 2002, fair game, right? Any year, any major, put it in the application. Another way you can earn points towards the education requirement is through service learning. This is volunteering. If you volunteered from January 1, 2019 forward to now, you are going to be able to claim that in your application. We accept if you're a general volunteer or if you are on a board or committee, like let's say with your AFP chapter or your children's school, your place of worship, all of that is going to count. All right, so I'm a very frugal person in my day-to-day life. I'm always trying to figure out how to do something cheaper. So I have some tip that I want to pass along for those of you who feel like I do. You see on your screen here all of these different kinds of qualifying education. But number 4 is a really good one to keep in mind, the audio video recordings of conferences. If you want to get as many education points as possible at the best price, okay? Because this means if you go to a conference where on the day you can only, you're one body, you can only be in one session at a time, you attend what you attend on site. But then if the conference organizer makes the recordings available afterwards, you can watch the recordings for everything that you didn't get to attend on the day. And then you can bank up all of those points. Off the cost of one conference registration, you can get a ton of education done. I know AFP Icon does this. I don't know if the 2023 recordings are still available. I know for 2024, they typically make them available about 1 month after the conference. But keep your eye out if you're looking to register for in-person conferences. When you find those ones that give you access to the recordings afterwards, it's like a win-win-win. If you're wondering, okay, I've been on all this education, is it going to qualify? Well, yes, if it's fundraising related. And if it's not fundraising related, did it realistically help you do your job better? It needs to be at least 45 minutes in length. This usually isn't an issue. It's just those little fast sessions in the exhibit halls that are 20 minutes. They're just not meaty enough to meet our requirements. So just needs to be a minimum of 45 minutes and completed within the last 5 years. I want to give a special note about conferences when you put these in your application. We do not need to know every session you saw at a conference. If you're thinking, oh my gosh, how on earth am I going to remember the sessions I went to in 2022? You don't have to know that. You just need to know the conference, that what it was, who organized it, and the dates of it, right? We have a lot of conferences kind of pre-populated in the application through a drop down. So if you attended them, you could pick them from there. So we try to make it easy for you. If you're looking for education, you're say, I need to get this application in because I need to start looking for a job. I want to get this show on the road. We do have My Education Finder. If you go to our website at CFRE.org and then go up the very top of the website, you'll see My Education Finder. This is a wonderful, wonderful directory of a bunch of fundraising education. Many of it is free or low cost. There's a lot of great on-demand options too. So have a look there. All right. The number one mistake we see on applications is people not telling us exactly how much time they were in fundraising education. What does that mean? If you go to a conference and it ran from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., you might think, okay, that was 7 hours, right? Because you need to tell us in the application how many hours it was. But it's not, because we have to subtract out lunch and breaks. to arrive at the actual amount of education time. So just be sure of that. If you need an agenda, right, you went to a conference 2 years ago and you're thinking, oh my gosh, Ashley, I don't know how long the lunch break was. Just ask the organizer for a PDF. They get these requests all the time. They can send you a PDF of the agenda, and that'll make your life a lot easier. But like I said, a lot of these are pre-populated in the application already. So have a look there first, and then if not, you can reach out to the organizer. Okay, so with that, we are at our first question break. We are going to hear from Jeff Stanger on the CFRE team. And Jeff, have we had any questions come in yet that we should look at as a group?
Yeah, lots of questions about the application deadlines, and
Sure.
I'll give you those real quick and then also paste them into the Q&A. January 20th, obviously that's passed. Next one is April 15th. There's one in July 15th and then October 1st. Also, lots of questions about education and how we join up with our with other organizations. AFP, AHP were both organizations that we originally in our history were connected to. We spun off as part of that credentialing in order to adhere to credentialing best practices, and that's why we're independent. But we do have a long list of participating organizations that you can get discounts from if you are part of those organizations and also promote the credential. I will post that a link to those participating organizations in the chat, as well as a link to all of our approved providers. So there are lots of questions about education too, and so where you can make up points if you're short and things like that. So be on the lookout in the next minute or two. We got a lot of questions that we're answering, but I will post those 3 specific links in just a minute or two.
Okay, great. And I see someone's asked what the cost is. We are going to get to that in a future slide. So just know that is coming up very shortly. Okay, great. All right, we are going to move on to a poll. Let's hope that this launches. Let's see. How long have you been professionally fundraising? So tell us how many years you have been professionally fundraising. I will close the poll in 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. All right, well, we had so many responses here. This is great. Let's see, what are the results? So can y'all see this? Let's saying share results. Okay, so it looks like we've got was it 78% of people have more than 3 years experience. Okay, great. And we've got 22% with fewer than 3 years. Okay, perfect. So the reason why we ask this is because that is our next requirement. Professional practice is the time that you have been in a professional fundraising role. So everybody who said that they have been fundraising for more than 3 years, as long as that 3 years has been since 2019, you have already met this next requirement. So 78% of you, there's a very good chance you can just say done on professional practice, right? You need to have just worked 36 months in the last 5 years. So if you took a break during the pandemic, you've been out for maternity leave, we totally understand. The role must be paid professional role, not a volunteer role, and at least 50% of your job duties in it, if it was full-time, need to be fundraising related. So super easy requirement, and it looks like a lot of people here have met it. If you have under 3 years experience, don't fear, you are in the right place, because the smartest thing you can do is start your application now so that as soon as you have 3 years, you can hit submit. The sooner you earn your CFRE, the sooner it can affect the trajectory of your career, right? Let's say you want that salary lift. If you get your CFRE at 3 years and you bump your salary up, right, that's going to keep going up, right, over time, because that's usually how salaries go unless you intentionally take a step back. Whereas if you have been in the field like 15 years like this, and then you get the lift, you've kind of missed out on the lift in the beginning, right, of the earning potential there. So a lot of people, as soon as they hit 3 years, they just submit that application. The third and final piece of the application is professional performance. This is just the impact that you're having. And there's two ways to meet this requirement. The first is through funds raised. You need to have raised, or your work on the team has to have raised 1.375 million US dollars in the last 5 years. People say, why is this US dollars? Because you're global. I'm in Canada. I'm in the UK. We are accredited. Our accrediting body only allows us to have one currency. If you are in Canada or elsewhere, we have a currency converter inside the application to help you with this. The way that you're going to look at this is that fundraising is a team sport. Okay, so let's say Deborah, Alyssa, and Christine are all on a fundraising team that has done a gala that has brought in $400,000. There's no way to say, well, Deborah brought in this much, and Alyssa brought in this much, and Christine brought in this much in most instances. So each person on that team would write $400,000, right? Because they were working in a synergistic way to get that amount raised. Same thing for a direct mail piece. Let's say there's 6 people on your team. You're all collaborating on that direct mail piece. It brings in $600,000. You would each take that $600,000. Again, we're going back the last 5 years. And with events, good news, you can report the gross raised. If you're in a smaller shop, you absolutely have a pathway to become a CFRE. If you can't meet that funds requirement, we totally get it. We have a way that you can meet the requirement through doing communications and management projects. There's more information about this on our website, but a project is something with a start and end date, which I'll give you an example. Let's say you overhaul your e-newsletter, totally rethink it inside out, change the day you send it, all this good stuff, and now it's bringing in 12% more donations. That is something that we would consider a project. Just hitting send on your e-newsletter every Thursday, that is not a project. But if you need to use the projects, they are there. All right. I saw there's a question here about, do you have to be in a volunteer position for a certain amount of time for it to count? So everything, we're going back 5 years. To be for a volunteer, just to let you know, it doesn't have to run 12 months out of the year. So if you do a volunteer opportunity that is, let's say, a beach cleanup for 4 weekends in June, that's going to be fine. We know a lot of volunteer opportunities don't run 12 months out of the year. So those volunteer opportunities, sometimes they're only for a day, right? Certain things like that, but it's all going to count. All right, so Jeff was putting through the list of participating organizations. These are organizations that we have an MOU with, so we can give their members a discount, which is great news for you. These include AFP, AHP, Canadian Association of Gift Planners, Charitable Gift Planners, NATO, NACTO. The full list of 31 orgs is in the About section of our website, so you can have a look there. Your membership must stay current through the day you take the exam. We do verify your membership, so if you are a member, you get the special rate of $700 US, and if you're not a member, you pay the regular rate of $875 US. If you do not stay a member through your exam date, we will either charge you the $175 difference, or you have the opportunity to reinstate your membership. So just know that that is verified. The initial certification fee includes your application review, all testing fees. So when you go to the test center, you're not going to be asked to pay anything additional. It's already been completely covered. It includes us sending you a digital badge when you become a CFRE that you can use on LinkedIn and Twitter to announce your amazing achievement to your network, plus the printing and mailing of your certificate anywhere in the world. All right, so our second question break. Jeff, what questions do we have? I see we have one here. How do you show evidence of the money raised? So that 1.375 million US raised, for evidence of that, we can take a signed letter from your supervisor. If you have that information in your annual report, those are typical ways that people can prove that they have raised that money. anything, Jeff, jumping out at you?
Yes.
Mhm.
Sure. This probably any of our panelists could help answer this, and that is, how did you reach your fundraising goals before submitting the application?
Great question. Soulafa, would you like to take that one? About how you met your what you did to meet your fundraising goals for the application?
Sure. Well, there's financial statements, so in every organization. So that's usually your source of truth if you forget in terms of how much was, raised in every role. So I would suggest you keep those, and those are usually publicly, they're accessible on the website, even if you're no longer with that organization. So I would just probably just go there and check first, and then it will probably trigger your memory in terms of what projects you've led and how much you've raised. That was one way that I did it. And then I think I usually keep track, there's always a reporting sheet of KPIs and like kind of per project. And so I also have that, and I usually keep them in my own personal records and files. So if you're not doing that, I would also suggest doing that. I think, yeah, those two would kind of give you, and you can always ask, if you've worked with other staff and that you need specific numbers or specific information for backup, you can always reach out to the staff and they can give you the information, or the accounting or the finance folks on your team.
Perfect. Thank you. And Jeff, we probably have time for one more question.
Sure. We've had several questions about consulting work and if that would apply towards this.
Absolutely. Many, many, many consultants are CFREs. And in fact, we have a number of people who become CFREs that are consultants because they see so many other consultants are CFREs. So when they want to bid on work, they want to be sure that they have their CFRE too. Yes, if you are a consultant, you can absolutely become a CFRE. On that professional performance funds raised, you are in the application, there's a place where you'll just tell us by client. So you'll say like Boys and Girls Club, you raise X amount of money through such and such date. As you were a consultant for this animal shelter, you raise such and such money through that date. So there is a place in the application specifically for consultants to report all of this. So you'll be in good shape. All right, great. So let's roll on. We're going to talk about the exam for the rest of this webinar. I know a lot of people have nerves about the exam. I want to be your sensei, and I just want you to just breathe and feel good about it. This is an exam on your chosen profession. It's the work you do Monday through Friday. You are an expert, you are savvy, you are driven, you are motivated, and you are smart. So know you're coming to this exam with a great body of knowledge and experience before you even open a book. You will need to open a book, everybody must, but don't feel intimidated by the exam. The exam is offered during 4 test windows every year, so you can take the exam any month except for December. We already talked about the application deadlines. So once your application is approved, you have up to 1 year to take the exam. Today is March 19th of 2024. If your application were approved today, you would have until March 15th, 2025 to take the exam. We give you so much time. We want you to be prepared. We want you to not feel rushed. We want you to take your time. Most people study 40 to 80 hours. It's not going to take your life over, but you have complete control over when you want to take it, which test window you want to take it in, which day you want to take it. So keep that in mind, that you're going to have up to 1 year to get prep underway. The exam uses questions that apply globally, right? We're not asking you about tax law in Canada. We're not asking you about gift receipts in the UK. We do refresh the questions periodically to make sure that they're up to date and for exam security. The exam is available in English using universally understood terms. We don't make up our own nomenclature here that you have to learn. We use accepted terms. Okay, how is the exam created? Well, we talked for a hot second about a certification has a defensible industry-wide body of knowledge under it, and that's exactly how our exam is created. Every 5 to 7 years, we conduct a job task analysis survey with fundraising professionals, most recently done in 2022. They tell us the tasks they perform, how often they perform them, and how critical they are to their fundraising success. That's how we know the exam and your preparation for it is actually going to make sure that you know what fundraising professionals need to know right now in this moment. We're not talking about a bunch of holdovers from 1999, right? The exam, it is current at all times because we want to make sure that it reflects what you need to know to do your job to the best practices. The exam is in 6 different domains, right? We are very transparent about what's on it. You're going to know precisely what you're going to be needing to know. You'll see here that securing the gift and relationship building make up over half the exam. Okay, so when it comes time to prepare, you want to be sure that you're very brushed up on those. We have a test content outline. This is your roadmap to everything on the exam. Like I said, we're incredibly transparent. So you're going to go to our website. It's a PDF, download it, highlight all of the bullet points where you don't think you could answer an exam question or you haven't directly worked in. And that's going to make your study plan, right? We're right up front with you about what you need to know. So you're going to know, okay, I don't know this. This is where I'm going to have to study. Then once you do that, we've got a ton of online resources to help you. I'm just gonna, the test content outline we talked about, but the glossary is also on our website. This is the language of the exam. Download this PDF and it's just gonna make sure that every term that we use, you know exactly what we're asking, right? So when we say a gift, this is what we mean. I told you it's in universally understood terms, but this is gonna give you that full like, yep, I know exactly what these questions are asking me kind of feeling. The resource reading list on our website has 9 books. You're going to read 1 to 3. Most people read 1 to 3, and we're going to tell you exactly which books you need to read for which knowledge domains you need to brush up on, right? So you took that highlighter to the test content outline and maybe you went, volunteer management. I really, really need to get my skill up there. We're going to show you the book to read for that, right? So we make it really simple for you so you know which book to read to help you get your knowledge up in which area. We also offer a practice exam, which is paid. You don't have to use this by any means. People like the practice exam if it's been a long time since they took an exam, so they can kind of get back in that test taking rhythm. There's also a study guide. Again, it's a paid resource you don't have to use, but this is really ideal if you like that old school workbook style of learning. We also have a study groups page. You don't have to go it alone. There are many, many virtual study groups out there. Many of them are free and are there to support you in becoming a CFRE. The exam itself has 200 multiple choice questions. Yay, right? Multiple choice. The correct answer is staring back at you on the screen. It's there. It's right in front of you. You don't have to do any essay questions. You don't have to do any open-ended questions. You're all set. There are 4 options per question, and you are selecting the best practice. You are not selecting how your organization does something, right? This is not an exam about how your organization fundraises. This is the best practice, globally accepted way to do it, right? So you're coming with that frame of mind. We give you 4 hours to take the exam, which is great because most people finish in 2 hours and 45 minutes. We give you tons of time. We set you up for success with this because you can move forwards and backwards in the exam. You can flag questions to return to later. Halfway through the exam, you get a 10-minute break so you can use the restroom, take medication, have a snack so that you're comfortable. We want your exam experience to be a positive one. All right, the exam is scored on a range of 200 to 800, and the passing score is 500. What does that mean? That means you don't have to have a perfect score, right? Don't freak out and think I have to have every single question correct or I'm, right? This isn't that kind of an exam. Even lawyers taking the bar exam, right? They're allowed to have questions that they miss. It's the same thing with us. You don't have to have a perfect score. 500 is the passing score. All right, now we are going to look at a practice question. This question does not appear on the live exam. All right, so this is going to give you a sense for how the questions are formatted and exactly what I mean when I tell you that it's a globally accepted best practice, because as we read this question together, you're going to see that it is not country specific, okay? When a donor wishes to make a planned gift / bequest to the endowment fund, the fundraising officer should first, 1, offer to contact the donor's financial organization and advisor. 2, explore what the donor wishes to accomplish with the gift. 3, identify and share with the donor the organization's future needs. Or 4, introduce the donor to various plan giving options. You don't have to tell me your answer. You don't have to type your answer in anywhere, but you've probably got it in mind. Okay. You got it? It's number 2, to explore what the donor wishes to accomplish with the gift, because that's the ethical best practice. They are guiding their philanthropic intent. You're not steering them to this fund. You're not steering them towards this new initiative. They're coming to you and telling you where their philanthropic interest lies. All right. Recertifying. So as a CFRE, you recertify every 3 years. There is no exam. Great news there, right? You will need to keep raising funds. You will need to stay in the profession. We do allow for a 6-month break in that 3-year period. If you're out longer for medical leave, maternity leave, some kind of exception, you can contact our office and we will be glad to work with you. The recertification fee is $408 US if you are a participating organization member, and $510 at the regular rate. So we talked about negotiating, right? And that employment contract. When you become a CFRE, before you go on your next job hunt, many CFREs negotiate for their employer to pay this recertification fee, right? It's not huge. It is also a really, really good litmus test for you in the negotiating phase to figure out if this employer pays for professional development, if they support people in this, right? So don't be afraid to ask for that. It's a very, very common thing that people do. Oops. All right. So we are now going to bring Soulafa and Dan back for their CFRE advice, and then we're going to use whatever time is left over for Q&A. So I'm very excited. Soulafa, for all the people on this webinar that are like, yes, I'm going to do this, what should my next step be? Tell them.
Well, I'd say you know what to do. Keep fundraising, fundraise, fundraise, fundraise. Keep track of your education coursework. Save it somewhere you can easily access and update. And 3, commit to this journey. Be well prepared. Study on your own and with a group. Set a date. Take the exam and get it done. Thanks.
I love it. No procrastinating. All right. And Dan, so I know this is 10 years ago, 10 plus years, but you know exactly what people need to do to be successful with this. So tell us.
I think the biggest advice I would give that was really helpful to me is really focus on those ideal circumstances, really around the best practices when you are approaching the answers to your questions on the exam. Really think about, take yourself out of your own experience, but think about you have the best possible staff, all the budget you'll ever need, the best possible executive staff, the perfect board, everything is at its ideal state. Then how do you approach answering those questions? Certainly study however is best for you. I mean, I knew I was not someone that could get the couple of books, get the test content outline, and sit and go through everything on my own. I needed a study group to have that interaction to help me retain all that information. But whatever works best for you that you know, that's the best way to do it. And really do take the time that you need. If you think it's gonna, if you know you need to put aside the next 6 months to make sure you get through all the readings, get through the outlines, and help prepare as best as possible for you, then do that. But don't take too much time. Don't feel like, oh, I've gotten everything in, I've done the application, I'm ready, and then I'm not going to hit the submit button. You got to take the plunge. Trust me, it's not that bad. We'll all be very here on the other side cheering you on as you join us as a CFRE. So get all your information in and join us.
Excellent. Well, thank you both. So we have 5 minutes left. We're going to take a couple questions as a group. Of course, if you have any questions for Soulafa, Dan, or Andrew, when you put that into the question pane, just put their names in there so we can be sure that we get the information that you need. So I saw there's a question here. Can I take the exam before applying? You do need to submit your application first. And then upon approval, that's when we're going to send you an email with instructions on how to book your exam. So you must meet the application requirements prior to being able to submit and take the exam. Let's see. We've had a question about if there's a practice exam. There is a practice exam. It has a bank of 320 questions. Many of them are retired off of prior CFRE exam forms. So the practice exam, like I said, is $59.95 US for a 30-day subscription. It's $99.95 if you want 90 days access. A lot of people find that valuable just to get back into thinking about taking a multiple choice test. But also sometimes people look at that test content outline and they think, I mean, I think I know this. Do I really know this? But the practice exam will help be your source of truth to figure out where you are already a fabulous expert and where you want to focus your study time. Someone has a question here. Any recommendations on keeping track of education credits? Do it in the application, right? We talked about you're going to be able to go in and out of that application as much as you want. So for instance, today, your session with us, if you stayed on for the entire hour, you will earn 1 point in the non-fundraising education section. So if you go to mycfre.cfre.org, begin your application, log your point from today, go back through your calendar, receipts, expense reports to jog your memory about the education you've done from January 1, 2019, which is awesome, right? Because all of the amazing online education, online conferences, everything from the pandemic, all of that stuff that you did that's fundraising related is going to qualify. A lot of people start filling this out and they're going, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize I had so many points and I was so close. So it pays to just go back, look at what you've done before and start entering it into the application. We have a question here about study groups that are available. So the study groups, many of them are free. And Jeff, if you have a chance, could you put a link to the study groups page through the chat?
Yes.
Awesome. And Jack Alato, his email address, I'll spell it out, is ALOTTO Jack @gmail.com. I'll say it again, ALOTTO Jack @gmail.com. He runs a free online study group on Saturdays. It's a wonderful community of people. Many, many people have successfully passed the exam after going through his study group. He gives you a lot of hacks about just mentally preparing overall, not just for the exam, but getting yourself into a positive headspace. Okay, so someone has a question about if you want to go on a webinar and some of them say eligible for CFRE points, but some don't mention CFRE points. Even if it doesn't mention CFRE points, it will count if it is fundraising related. So you don't have to worry. A number of organizations have their stuff count for points because that means it's automatically pre-populated in the application. So your life is so much easier because if you attend it, you just have to pick it. You don't have to remember the dates and how long it was. All right. So yes, somebody's asked about the recording. We will send the link to that to you via email in 24 hours. So you should be all set there. All right, I'm just going to do a quick plug. We have a CFRE ambassador program. If you want to get matched with a current CFRE to be your guide through the process, they can tell you about how they study, their advice. Email share, SHARE @cfre.org. I will connect you for free with an ambassador who will happily guide you through the process. I want to thank Soulafa, Andrew, and Dan for being amazing today, for sharing their insights and expertise.
My
If a,
pleasure.
if a question comes to you after the webinar that we didn't get a chance to answer it, we absolutely want to get you the information. So please go ahead and drop us a line at succeed@cfre.org. Thank you everyone for your time, and we wish you all the best for a successful and wonderful CFRE journey. Take care.
Take care.